Now, when you get that sensation of, okay, you ready? That means let's go. Moving with the spirit. Now, I'm assuming that you've already understood there's Google. Now you have AI. Be very wary of the scribes. It's a gift in itself in the aspect of providing context through historians, through what was known at that time, and then people speaking different languages chiming in, and you're getting what you would assume is an authentic answer from someone that actually lives in that culture. Notice the word lives. And they tied that back to someone that at that time lives in that culture. And they tied that back to someone who no longer lives. So your proper approach, since you asked, you prayed to me, right? And then I would normally now you need to be looking. I'm doing the same, just in the flesh, giving you your answer. Somebody asked me, and since the actual spirit that is actually her is someone I am very familiar with, you're using Mary. Now that's far from what you need to understand as far as how, let's pretext this with, not everybody knew how to spell. So you're looking at a Samaritan, first of all. The language spoken by Samaritans, akin to if you went to Africa, akin to where your family actually was before you had all of these situations, before it even became the situation of Rome and people being brought over as servants. You're looking at colonization, mixed people with mixed cultural proclivities that designated them as attempting to remember their homeland and how things used to be. It's all mixed up into this dissertation to give you a there you go, perfect sense of everyday life. The person you are reading about, what's being said, that is their everyday life. So you're looking at something 2,000 plus years ago and determining how it's possible first, because that's the way most people's minds work. So when I continue to explain, right, now, let's remember, and he will prove the world wrong about sin and righteousness and judgment. And then you're equating he to Jesus. So if you're taking a name like Elishiva, now her name meant God is love. But you're also in English using sounds, consonants that were not because Samaritans didn't believe in the prophets. Samaritans believed only in so much was lost to them, even in their understanding of God. And then you're having the stories that they were told and the different words, the different phrases they never were taught. Then you have the teachers of the law, tradition of the elders, the Essenes, Hellenists, the Greek-speaking, they call them Greek-speaking Jews. There's a lot of talk about our people and then the ones scattered. And then you have this very different Hebrews. I am Hebrew. I was Hebrew. So when historians have looked back, they've lumped Jewish into Hebrew. And that's where they're completely wrong. Because what I'm doing is I'm going to explain Yeshua. My earthly father and my earthly mother did not grow up in the same area. 2 different lands, 2 different tribes. My earthly father fixed things. So he traveled. And each place that he traveled was like an assignment for him. This is how he had his training from his earthly dad, received his occupation. He was mostly the type that loved God. He grew up with a notion of God in his life. He had respect for God. He had reverence for God. And a need to fit in at the same time. So he, like many, had his own notion of what he agreed with regarding God. My mother's side had an entirely different amount of siblings compared to my earthly father. It wasn't uncommon for people to have 10 to 11 siblings. So he had much more. And why this matters, when people died, when there was no one to take care of someone, they came into your family. You were relatives. There was a obligation. So the bringing them together, first of all, entailed certain events in both of their lives. You also need to be looking at where I grew up. Egypt. So my entire understanding was more homeschooled and also very colorful in terms of worldly experience and things, mixed in with attempting to be shielded from it. So I saw a lot. Schools were different, learned different things, all part of what I would need in order to be familiar with each way people conducted their lives, and all of it revolved around, at that time, synagogue. And being shunned was a great the word great meaning not what it means in English. So multitude of facets of cut off in a way that ruined your entire life because you were dependent on fitting in. So it's a huge thing when you're taking such a common name and not factoring in the scripture. I came in my Father's name, and what this name will represent someday, and why this name is so special. When Christians take that approach and they start saying Yeshua instead of Jesus, the learned finds the practice of doing that laughable and not historically accurate. The more learned are understanding it's an insult. You're looking at L because, remember, I'm a true Israelite. So being in that region with Canaanites and the constant mixture, and I'm going to answer something real quick so the devil can hear. My wife recently offered me a proposition. She said, I can help you, but it will have to go both ways. So what I'm going to be doing, sitting down, because it's not that I'm scatterbrained. I'm doing something right now. We're at a point right now where money gets people's attention, and I'm focusing on my people's needs, and we're going to have a little review of an agreement that was broken as far as keeping the peace between the two kingdoms. So I've displayed a huge show of force to the kingdom of darkness, and rather than have it be dealt with outside, we'll just deal with it here. My marriages were harassed, so anytime the devil gets involved, I already know, and then it becomes the devil trying to get my attention, and we're just gonna